OK, we're going to continue with some of the Aaron Ramsdale interview from the Players' Tribune, which the guys were talking about yesterday. Just talk a little bit more about it. We mentioned that there was some talk about social media and the role of TV pundits as well, and what role they played in his move to Arsenal and how they affected his thoughts. He said, I go to my Twitter and I see that the news has leaked and I'm getting absolutely roasted. After the initial shock, I'm thinking, OK, fair enough. It's my fault for having my notifications on. This is just modern football. Social media's toxic. Just a few trolls, right? No worries. I go to my room and I turn on the TV. Football is the only way I know how to relax. So I flick on Sky Sports News, and you know, when the ex-players and pundits are all sitting around on Sky, shaking their heads, and they've got a lad's picture up, well, it's my face up there, and the pundits are not thrilled. It's an interesting experience watching legends you grew up idolising saying that you're rubbish in front of the entire country. That really affected me. It brought me back down to earth from cloud nine in a matter of hours. So obviously he compared it as well. He even opens the piece by saying, you know, often people get this move and they're so excited. For him, he just had this really negative connotation with it because he felt like the entire world was telling him he was garbage. He said that in other words, but yeah.
Well, you're more open to that now than ever, and both from the sort of medium that we work under and also the social media platforms, because, you know, when we made transfers, there would be newspaper comments and maybe the odd TV show at the weekend. But now, like our show, in a lot of different countries, it's, and particularly England, it's wall to wall, isn't it? It's 24/7. And if you pick your phone up on top of watching the TV, then you know what's coming on Twitter. There are some, I mean, when you make a transfer like that, if you want to get down on yourself, go on social media. Because that's where the moronic element hang out. There are some sensible people, but there's a lot of idiots on there. So I wouldn't imagine that's the most sensible thing to do. And quite frankly, dealing with pundits and analysts and presenters and all that, it's just part of the job. It's part of the job then, it's part of the job now. Maybe there's a little bit more of it. But we've all sort of had it in some way, shape or form, you know, when you make a move. But listen, what I will say is, fair play to him. I mean, that must have been rattling around in his head for a good few weeks. But he had a hell of a season, didn't he? He performed really, really well. So it tells me that he's a guy that can sort of deal with put that to the back of his mind, deal with it, knows he's a good goalkeeper. I certainly never looked at him last year and thought, well, there's a guy that looks shaky every game. I mean, he might have had his moments, but I thought he looked like a very confident young man, and I thought actually he did very, very well.
Just stay off social media. I mean, it really shouldn't be too difficult.
I think his point in this is that, yeah, I know he probably shouldn't have, but it's really tough that wherever you turn, even if your way to relax is to watch Sky Sports News, say, and then he's seeing that said
but
about
again,
him.
it's part of the job. Listen, when you're a kid growing up and you're a young player and you're going out and you're enjoying yourself and playing football and everything you do, nobody's watching you, it doesn't matter. When you become a top professional in the Premier League, your life has to change. And that's, when you sign that contract, you make that deal. So don't make that deal and complain. I mean, that's basically it. And if you go any other way about it, then you'll drown. Clearly, he did turn off his phone. I'm assuming he stopped watching football on the telly, because that's what you have to do. You've got to do what you have to do to make you the best player you can be. And he clearly did that. So any young players coming up in the same situation, I guess that'll help, because if they read this, they'll go, you know what, if I get in that position, you know what I'm going to do? Switch it off.
Ignore it all.
Oh, you got to do the right thing for your career.
It's like if you have a really bad game, right? Why would you go home at night? Because you're already beating yourself up as a player, right? Yep. And you go home, if you have a stinker, some fans might think players go home and laugh and joke about it. You go home and beat yourself up. You know, just sit there.
Well, the long bus journey home was a
It's
killer.
horrible.
And then it's just miserable for your families to be around you after a game
that's
like
what
that.
I hear from my point of view that's normal, but so I've been told. But I thought I'd slip that in before somebody else did.
No,
but so why
we're
would
not thinking it anyway,
I know
don't
that.
worry.
Why would you then, you know, you go home, you pull the curtains, you're already, oh, well, look at my performance today, you're thinking about it. Why would you then in any situation, switch your phone on and read the diatribe that's going to be on there. It's not, and I know it's the modern way and all that to use the social media platforms, but there has to be a time and a place. And don't make a bad situation worse by reading too much into what some of these keyboard warriors, because that's what they are, what they have to say, because, you know, most of them have achieved absolutely nothing, but yet they're giving out all this stick.
Jules, have you had
Hello guys, welcome back to another video. This is the Football Connect. I'm your host Sam, and we are back again with another one. One thing that I was really impressed by Danny Ali and Aaron Ramsdale stories is that for the first time, I believe the public, I get to know that these are not just robots behind those smiles, those celebrations we see, and behind those amazing talents we see. They're actually human beings. They go through what we call real human being problems as well. So you won't really want to see so many people crying about how much what you say about them affect them. And like what he was talking about, Craig, as a player, now moving on to the player, it's very important that you don't spend your time on social media, because if you go there thinking that what your performance you have already pulled out in a game would be something that they're just going to ignore and they're going to treat you well, that's really something you're going to have to learn the hard way, that they don't really care about you, especially those people who are behind the keyboard, who Craig is calling keyboard warriors. Because one thing you have to understand, them people are just behind the keyboard. They don't show their faces and they don't get critiqued that much because nobody knows who they are. But you are somebody who is out there in the world, that you have come out and you've shown that you have a talent to prove. They are always gonna come try to throw you down, try to do as much as they can. So you need to be careful as a football player. Very, very careful. And now I'm gonna move on also to the other point that Nicol said. When you have decided to show your talent on anything, either on social media, either on any way, you know that you are marked. For example, I can tell you, each and every content creator you know outside and right now, the terrorists, everyone, somebody is saying something bad about them. Whether they're doing so well, go in their comment section, you see that somebody is saying something bad about them. Worse, if you're making so much money out of it, you know you're going to have a couple of haters, especially if you're playing for a football club. Know that you're going to have other fans of the other football club you're playing against not liking you. So you are going to find yourself with so many haters that will say so much, that will try to derail you, that will try to hold you down. And sometimes you have to understand, on the social media part, you might be hurt so much the player, but sometimes you find that those people are writing actually to make the fans of the club you support, you play for, to actually feel pain. So you have to understand, in this long game, in this longevity, you're not the only one who's actually under the sword. Even the fan base is under the sword. So you need to be ready for everything that comes to you. That's why you're being paid the big bucks, so that you can go see the greatest therapist who can help you to deal with the cruelty that the world is always offering. Also on the pundits, these guys are paid to do so, and some of them, you have to understand, even though he was your legend, it was your hero you respected, he wasn't playing for the club you are now playing for. So he might say this not because he doesn't know that you're his hero. One thing that he knows that is you are playing against the opposition, and he's gonna say as much as he can so that it derails you. So if you're gonna focus on them hoping that they're gonna lift you up, you'll be surprised that that hero you have loved, you had a picture of at the back of your room when you're growing up, is not exactly that person you're expecting. So you need to be ready for that. It's always gonna come, and it's always gonna be coming. So I made this part into a two series. I was talking about Craig and like I'm saying, Craig, and as well as Nicol. Now I'm going to move on to the other guys and what they had to say. It's very important. Click the like button, subscribe to Connect. So check out the part 2 as we move on.